Hello, welcome back to Supposedly Fun. I am Greg, here to do a book haul for the month of June. Now, this is going to be a much larger book haul than usual because June happens to be my birthday month, so I treated myself a lot more than I usually would. And this probably means that the book haul in July is going to either be non-existent or very slim. So we'll see how that goes. We got a lot of books to get to, so let's get to them. Now, I usually start with library books, but since this was my birthday month, I'm going to start with some bookish presents that I was given from my husband and my foster son. The first are these Bookends, which I thought were really pretty. We saw Bookends just like them in an antique store. My foster son loves antique stores. And I saw them, I really liked them, but left without buying them. My husband went back and they had already sold. So he found these on Etsy, and they look exactly the same. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to reconfigure my bookshelves to fit these in. I think they're gonna be really pretty. I am also gonna have to reconfigure my bookshelves to figure out a way to fit this. It is a drawer from a card catalog. I love card catalogs. So this is a really cool gift. It works, it is very functional. My husband has the idea that I can use, he gave me index cards with it because he knows I use them to take notes in books. So he had the idea that I could file all of those index cards in here. I don't know that that's what I'm going to use it for because I usually, if I take notes, I leave the index cards in the book, and I feel like to me that makes a little bit more sense. But I have some ideas on how to use this, and I think it's going to be really cool. So that's it for the birthday gifts. Let's get on to the books. First, from the library, I did get Karen Russell's new book, Orange World and Other Stories. I have not started this. It is due back at the library tomorrow, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to return it and get back on the wait list. When it comes back around, maybe I will give it a try then, but I did get it in. I'm just not going to get to it right now. Also, I had forgotten I was on the wait list for this, but I got the Overstory by Richard Powers, and I haven't quite decided if I want to read this now or wait until I actually start my Pulitzer Prize project and get a little bit into that. I might read this and do the first book in the series in tandem with it, so that way I'm doing the first book and the most recent book. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't really quite made up my mind yet. Getting into books that I purchased, it was really important for me to get the Stonewall Reader, this being the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots, and I really want to read it. Another thing that just arrived, Damien Barr's You Will Be Safe Here. I'm very excited to read this. It sounds like a really good book. It is set in South Africa. It explores legacies of abuse, redemption, and the strength of the human spirit, from the British invention of the concentration camp during the Boer War to brutal boot camps for teenage boys today. It sounds really good. Kind of high expectations for it, but we'll see how it does. I'm very excited to get to it. I think the cover is... I've seen the UK cover is a little different. The UK cover has black barbed wire across the front, but I kind of like the way this one is done. Another book with a pretty cover is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, which I got. I've heard really good things about it here on BookTube and on Instagram and other places. What sold me is that it says it's a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read, and it's about the power of telling one's own story, as much about the power of telling one's own story as it is about the obliterating silence of not being heard. Sold. Can't wait to read that. And another book with a really pretty cover. I talked about this one yesterday. I got myself a copy of The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, a Reader's Digest hardcover edition that is really pretty and old-fashioned. Can't wait to read this book as part of my Pulitzer Prize project. So I got myself a pretty cover of it to go along with it. While I was in the used bookstore picking up The Good Earth, I happened to see this copy of Pride and Prejudice. It's not the prettiest copy, but I liked the book and I don't own a copy, so I figured I might as well grab it. So there's that. Next, I decided to try something a little bit different. I decided to try Book of the Month Club. So I had a promo code to get one free add-on book, so I ended up getting 3 books for my first debut month. The first one I got is Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane. I'm excited to read this. So it's the story of 2 cops who lived next to each other, I believe in the 1970s. It does not say the year, but I believe it's in the 1970s, and there's some kind of a tragic incident, and then it kind of goes into the present day to see the ripple effect that trauma has and how your interpretation of the past changes over time, and sometimes later you can look at things with different eyes. It sounds very interesting. I can't wait to get to that. I used my free credit to get a copy of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid because I had already listened to this on audio, and again, I talked about this book yesterday, but I listened to this on audio, and I'm really fascinated by its oral history structure, so I wanted to get a physical copy so I could kind of look at it and see how it works. I've always thought oral history is a very interesting way to structure a novel, and I really enjoyed the way that it turned out in this. So, and then I cashed in another credit from Book of the Month Club to get a copy of Cersei by Madeline Miller, because the waitlist for the audio of this book is frankly untenable. It's insane. It's like 6 months or something like that, and I've already waited roughly the same amount of time to get the audio version of The Song of Achilles. I finally got it, but I don't want to do it a second time. So I decided to cash in that extra credit and find out what all the fuss is about. Now this one, it's just kind of a gimme. I don't know when I'll get to it, but if I'm ever in like a reading slump or anything, I can use it. There is a department store in town that is closing, and they had a very small book section, and this was on sale while they were closing. So I figured, why not? I'll grab it. Gillian Flynn's Dark Places. I have not seen the TV show. I don't know if I will see it once I've read the book, but it'll be interesting once I do get to it. Then we get to the Pulitzer Prize Project, and I've already talked to you about that and the books that I've picked up for it. So I grabbed Ernest Poole's The Harbor, because this is going to be supplemental reading for my project. Basically, Ernest Poole won a Pulitzer Prize for his family, which is another book I purchased, obviously. He won the Pulitzer Prize for his family, but it seems that he won it because of this book, which was published before the Pulitzer Prize for fiction existed. So I got both of these books. These are going to be the beginning of my Pulitzer Prize project. And then the second book that won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction was The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Tarkington. I grabbed a copy of that as well, so I am well and ready to get started on my Pulitzer Prize project. And while I was at the library picking up those other two books, I cruised the rack of used books that the library has for sale, and I found A Complicated Kindness by Miriam Taves. And I love women talking. I love All My Puny Sorrows. I have always wanted to read another book of hers, so I can't wait to get to this. And they also had A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I have wanted to read Rules for Civility and this book for a long time, so I'm really excited to actually own one of these books. So, those are all the books. I don't know if I want to pick them up. It's like I'm doing the booktube at the gym tag a second time. These are all the books that I have gotten into my library in the month of June. If you've read any of these and think I should prioritize some of them, please let me know. If you've read any of these and think I should stay away from them, it's a little late, but maybe you should throw me a warning anyway. And I would also love to know what you've brought into your house in the month of June. And as always, I will be back again. Thank you for your time watching this video. Until next time, happy reading.